buckle up, enjoy the ride with Crystal Petrie. Consulting, so inspiring, pushing you to your dreams.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of 60 Minutes With. I am happy about this podcast today because that's exactly what we are all going to learn about. Happiness, how to be happier in our everyday life, and how to be intentional about happiness. And here to teach us about happiness, can't believe it, Dr. Belinda George.
Thank you. I know a lot, but I'll see how much of an expert I am on happiness.
Okay. Listen, I'm not an expert at all, so whatever you're willing to teach, I am willing to learn.
Got it.
Yes. Okay, so my first question is, what does happiness mean to you? Like, what is that?
Happiness is not always being happy.
Really?
It's not. So happiness is learning to understand that your life is what it is. It had a destination. Before the decisions you made, that was a destination. Okay. I always tell people, if you believe that your decisions are more powerful than what God allows, you are sadly mistaken. So I always say, and you're on social media, have a good day on purpose. Have a great day on purpose. Yes. That means that when I woke up this morning, God knew exactly what I would have done. But He was going to send all these tests. All of these tests during the day. And I had to determine whether I was going to have a great day on purpose or not. So if I had to leave my home to go to work and someone ran me off, and then I did an inappropriate gesture to them, and then they're upset, so they get upset with the next person, and I go into work and I catch you at the door and I'm like, Crystal, guess what happened? Then I tell you, and then you're like, girl, let me tell you what happened. So that's a negative kind of connection. And then you go about the day and you're like, I'm not letting nobody else do this here. So the next person you snap, and then that person is taking control of your entire day. So happiness is not always happy. It has to deal with having a great day on purpose. It takes work. It's not anything that you can just, it's constant work.
So would you say that happiness as well as negativity are contagious?
Yeah, oh yes, most definite. I always say energy. And when I get a vibe from energy, I'm like, no, I don't care if you say, but Belinda, they share, an apartment with Mother Teresa. I don't care. I'm not getting those vibes. And if you were around me or with someone that I wasn't fond of, my energy would be different. My energy would be different. So since I'm aware of my energy, I'm aware of others. And so I also know that if your energy is off, it can't be me if it's always good. It must be something that happened. So in order for me to have a great day on purpose, I can ask you, what's wrong, Crystal? And you say, I don't want to talk about it. I'll have to understand that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you said happiness is something you have to work at. How do you work at being happy? Now, before you answer that, my thinking is very black and white. So when I'm asking you, how do you work at being happy, is there like tangible steps that you can say, okay, Crystal, number one, you do this. Number two, you do this.
Life lessons.
Okay.
Being 47 years old, you learn just life. And I know you probably read it. You said you're an avid reader. God will keep giving you the same lesson until you learn it. Yes. And so some people will say, I keep meeting this guy. Oh, yeah, well, you haven't learned your lesson. And so I don't want to keep repeating things I don't like. Okay. So I'm going to learn my lesson. So I'm going to have a great day on purpose. So I would say the first step is self-reflection. Okay. I have this thing. If there is something good within 24 hours, I'm going to make sure I tell you, because the joy is still there. And I want to pour it in. If it's negative, it's 72 hours. 72 hours, because if I'm upset, raw emotions, I'm going to say whatever I need to say. And sometimes I do it. In the midst, I have to do it. But in 72 hours, if I feel the need to apologize or go back to revisit, my emotions are gone. But it's still there. And so that's one way of doing it. And then I don't have that just dealing with because I have a big conscience. I don't have that to be waking up 3 in the morning like I shouldn't have told Crystal shut up, and then you're like, girl, I didn't even hear you. I'm like, I've lost 3 nights of sleep because of it. But it starts with us.
Okay.
It starts with me. My happiness starts with me. It doesn't, and I've heard so many times, I'm going to sit by Belinda, she makes me happy. Don't come over here, you energy vampire, and suck all my happiness. Unless you're happy too, don't come sit by me. Do not come over here with your big energy, you know, negativity straw and suck mine. Because that's how it works.
Yes.
And so it also starts with you find your circle.
Okay.
And if your circle doesn't feed you, it's the wrong circle.
Okay.
And you know, you feel exhausted. Have you ever talked to somebody and you're like, I feel like I've been on a treadmill for 3 hours?
Yes.
I'll let those people know right away. Because I'm just not going to sit there and take it. And one of my things professionally that I've said is, if you come to vent, it must be bad enough for me to go tell the person.
Wow.
And I do it.
No, you don't. Yes,
I do.
What?
And the reason I do it is because if I don't, I'm allowing a cycle of negativity, being toxic. That person feels like they can always come to me and tell me. Once I shut it down, they don't come to gossip anymore.
Yes.
And that's how I am. So you have, if it's that bad and you're venting to me and it affects my job, you darn right I'm gonna go tell it. Yes. I'm not gonna hold on to that. And then the next day you got, and girl, guess what? What are we doing with the information? What are we doing with it?
Right.
What are we doing with it? So, and I believe in transparency. People love it. Some people absolutely hate it. Mm-hmm. But my happiness is also my transparency. I have this temple to take care of. You have that temple to take care of. If you're constantly sitting there and harboring negative thoughts and feeding that feeds your soul. Then you go home because you can't vent and fuss at anybody like you can your own loved ones.
It's true.
And they get the brunt of what we should have said. No. When I get home and tell me, this is what I said.
Wow.
Because I used to say, Melvin, I should have said, and then all night I'm fussing, cussing, you know, on the phone, trying to get validation of what I did. Mm-hmm. No. Spreading all of that negativity, no. Keep it to yourself or get rid of it.
In the 72 hours.
And do something about it. If you're not going to do anything about it, shut up. Coming to me with all that mess.
I am loving you in this interview already. Oh my God.
I'm like the polite cat Williams.
Yes. It's the truth. You are the polite cat Williams. Oh my goodness. So have you lost friends and like family members with this?
Everybody and anybody can tell you. My friends can tell you. Mm-hmm. My coworkers that I gravitate to a little bit more on a higher level of a coworker. I will say, if you do me something, I will tell you. If I honestly love you and care, I'll tell you how you made me feel. Okay. If I don't, I won't, and I'll just be cordial. But you'll definitely notice a change. But you're not worth me explaining. But I tell you that right in the front.
Okay.
Right away. If I feel a connection, I'm going to go ahead and say it. So that was yours, Crystal.
Thank you.
And
I feel honored.
And so when I change, it could be 2 days after I said, it could be 2 days after we've had the best girls weekend, but your energy changed, immediately, that was too soon to develop a relationship. I'm just going to be cordial.
Okay.
But if I care enough, or if it's something that impacts other people, I'm going to tell you your why. Or if I feel like this is your behavior and this is the way you made me feel, and I don't care how you made but this is how you made me feel. Mm-hmm. No. And I never apologize for the way people make me feel. I'm not.
And you know, I feel like, especially women, I don't know if men have this issue, but women have this issue of always apologizing for everything. We walk into the room, oh, I'm sorry.
This little girl.
What is that?
This little girl taught me the most valuable. A little girl. She was in the 4th grade. Uh-huh. And I said, because the mom and I had talked, and I said, tell her you're sorry. And she looked at the mom and she said, can I say it? And she said, yes. And she said, I'm not a sorry individual. I am not a bad person. I'm not going to say I'm sorry. I'll say I apologize because I did something wrong. Man. I was like, I'm not sorry either.
Yes.
I will never say I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah. Now condescending, I've had people say, I'm sorry if you feel that way. That's condescending. Mm-hmm. But if I say, you can't tell me how to feel with what you just did, I mean that. You cannot sit there and say, well, why are you like this? Why because you made me feel a certain way.
Yes.
You felt like what you were saying was okay. So I definitely feel like it's okay for you to hear it. Yeah.
How long did it take you to, I feel this is courage and boldness. How long did it take you?
Probably my 40s.
Okay.
Being miserable, coming home crying about people that upset me, people that hurt my feelings, coming home and then thinking, I'll get them something nice. I'll do something nice.
No, you wouldn't.
I'll try to fix it. And I thought, you can't fix broken things without an expert, you know, without a license or a degree. I'm around here trying to fix mental health issues. No, sister, you crazy. And if you have the same problem everywhere you go, you're the problem, Crystal.
Oh, absolutely.
You're the problem. So if I go to a ton of people and I have the same problem, it's me.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah. It's me. I'm the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's me.
And while I may be the problem, it doesn't mean I'm always at fault, because I may not be handling it right. Because I said this morning on Facebook, Crystal, and I'm an avid believer, you teach people how to treat you.
You do. You absolutely
So if
do.
if you rip me a new one and you say, I'm going to go home and pray about it, and you pray about it, and the Lord tells you, you know, go to this person, they cuss you out again. I love the Lord, but I'm probably after the first time say, God, forgive me for cussing her out, please, Jesus, in Jesus' name.
Right, because I'm about to.
Because that side, and one thing about me, Crystal, if I'm joking and I'll curse. But if I'm upset, I don't curse.
Really? That's like opposite to what normally people do. Okay.
I'm not going to curse.
So are you like calm in your
I get
calmer.
calmer.
I can see that.
I get calmer and I smile and I encompass and I'll say what I have to say in that moment. But after, you know, I have this, what I should have said and what I could have said, but I missed the opportunity. So if I want to keep stuff going, I'll say I need to talk again. I'm going to let it go. But then I'm going to treat you accordingly. And every time something happens, I'm going to bring up my why. If people don't give me a safe place to talk or they try to shut me down, you should never ever try to shut people down if their beliefs are different or if they're disagreeing or if they're upset. Now, if they're just tangent and cussing, I'm like, professionally, I'll say, you've cursed me out. You have one more time to curse me out, and I'm going to hang up or I'm going to walk out of the room. If I tell you that, I'm going to abide by it. I absolutely, positively mean it. Yeah.
Wow. So you are very intentional, I feel like, about protecting your happiness.
Yep.
So do you think more people, I think everybody should be intentional about protecting their happiness, but I don't think that people, and you can, you know, add to it, I don't think that people think about happiness in the way that you perceive happiness.
And everybody has the capability to be happy. And I think I talked to you before. I was severely depressed. I went into a deep episode of depression. And I even speak about it. And I remember the day that I was going to do it. I have gastroparesis. You know, I have an illness that God healed me from that did not have a cure.
Did not have a cure.
Yes.
Thank God.
And so let me go back to my train of thought. What was I saying right before?
Where you fell into your deep depression.
Yes. So depression. And when I would hear people, it's like, girl, you need to pray. Let's go for drinks. Let's go dancing. Well, when I got into it, it's a very dark space. Okay. And it's so dark to the point, especially in the black community, where you would tell me to pray. Melvin would tell me to pray. Go to the pastor, would tell me to pray. I've done that. So if you tell me that I feel like in my head that I've let God down,
it's true.
Because I prayed.
Are you not praying correctly?
Yeah. And I'm thinking I'm not having enough faith. And so this particular time I was sick, I was weak, I was, you know, my face was changing. I'm 159 now. I was 119. Wow. So I had no hair. My hair was falling out. I was thin. You know, my teeth were sensitive from throwing up all the time. It had ate at my enamel. I was very, very sick. Melvin loved me. Thank God I had a good marriage. And so we didn't even realize it, that I would get in the bed and didn't feel well. And then it turned into days of not bathing. But it wasn't obvious.
Right.
Because my days weren't your days. It was just like one long, continuous day. And so I can't tell you like it lasted 30 days, or I don't know when it started. I just know when I got there, I didn't even know I was there. I didn't know I was in depression. I thought it was sadness that I could handle. That makes sense.
Did anyone around you? Okay.
No. When I graduated with my doctoral degree, I had a very specific list. And I revealed to everyone, because Melvin knew, and this lady named Debbie Oji knew, and because I was still there. And I was dealing with depression. And Melvin, I'll go back to, so Melvin, the day that I decided was a Thursday, because he cuts grass on Thursday.
And Melvin is your husband?
Yes, my sweet, loving husband. So he cuts grass, and I was like, he goes out in the yard at 10, he won't be until 2, so I Googled how many of the pain pills to take so that I couldn't be resuscitated if he found me in that time. So I had Googled, had everything, put my phone by me, I didn't have a letter, nothing. And I had the pills. And so when he started up the lawnmower, I grabbed the pills. Of course, I was nervous, very, very nervous. And he cut off the lawnmower and came back in the house, which he never does. Yard day is yard day. And he came into the house, and Robin Williams was on the news, breaking news, he had committed suicide. And I was watching it at that time, and it was like perfect confirmation. And so
that's what you thought?
That's what I was
when you
thinking.
were watching that?
Because I was like, I'm about to do it, and then he did it.
Yeah.
And he's a happy person.
Okay.
And so I was like, God forgive me, you know, all that good stuff. And so when his aired, Melvin came in and he stopped in front of the TV, and he looked at the TV, and his words were, "That's so selfish." And I said, tears in my eyes, he only needed 2 seconds. And he said, "What are you talking about?" And so I showed him the pill, and I said, "It's 2 seconds. I would have done it."
You showed him? Your husband, what you're, oh my goodness.
It's literally, and I get teary-eyed every time I do it. Talk about it. 2 seconds. Him walking in the house saved my life.
Yes.
And I've studied when people kill themselves, and they shoot themselves, the bullet never comes here. It comes here or here, because they second think it. And so it's literally, suicide is a 2-second decision. It's just a dark place you get into, and it's no way up, it's no way down, it's no way to the left or to the right. And it's just an escape, but it's so intense that you don't have a way out. Now, back to my graduation party, I announced, I said, I know there's people in the room wondering, how did you get an invite? And you're probably wondering, how did so-and-so? Over the course of a year when I was depressed, I didn't tell anyone.
Okay.
Each time I thought to commit suicide, those people either called, text, said something that made me not do it.
Yes.
And I revealed it to them.
At your party?
My doctor. I did. And that's why it was very intentional about everybody at that party. They had said something to save my life.
And they did not realize.
And from that point forward, I have to have a good day on purpose, because I don't want your 2 seconds to be because of my 2 seconds.
I am a huge Robin Williams fan. I've always been. He's just phenomenal. And one of the things that he would always say, which his suicide caught me off guard, but caught everyone off guard. But one of the things he would always say is suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary. Yes.
It is.
So
but you don't, even though he said it,
yes,
that place. And I started saying, that person, like they said, they leave behind so many hurt people. But they already think they're hurting you. So they don't do it to remove themselves. They remove themselves because they're hurting everybody around them. They're a burden. Because by that time you get there and they throw, I threw hints. Belinda, you need to get out and do something. Well, I can't. Belinda, you need to just, you're just looking for stuff to be sad about. Or, Belinda, don't let that bother you. That's just another thing. And then you just kind of, okay, so then you stop talking.
Yeah.
You know, we're so quick to say, talk about it. But the minute you open your mouth,
people don't want to hear it. Or they give you cliches. I don't want to hear a cliche.
Or they don't understand it.
That part.
They don't understand
that
so
part.
When your daughter, she came home and said that today, God forbid, you would be like, oh my God, what do I do? The first thing we do is I need to get them some help. I need to get them some help. You need to go to a mental hospital. We need to get you on some medicine. And all that person at that point wants is validation. I just need to know you're enough. You're enough.
Yeah.
But we need to get you some help. It's a chemical imbalance. Nothing is wrong with you. It's serotonin. Your serotonin levels are low. Have you tried some medication? They'll say, I can't get on medication. Okay, so have you tried meditation? Prayer, there's some holistic things. Whatever it is you're wanting to do, I'll do it with you. But I will not leave you alone. That saves a life.
Do you feel like in the Black community that mental health, depression is not talked about enough? Because I feel like in the Black community, if you're depressed, they'll say, you just sad, you'll get over it. Or you need to go to church, or you need to talk to God. Like, they dismiss it. Now, of course, I'm not saying everyone in the Black community is like this, but a lot of people are.
Our ancestors were so strong.
Because they had to be.
They had to be.
Yes.
So why aren't you having to be strong? And so we pass that down. And now they say, y'all raising little soft kids. We're raising kids with healthy boundaries is what we're doing. And so that whole, you got to be strong. No, those people back then that weren't strong, they just kind of disappeared. I haven't heard from Charlene in 30 years. Well, God, no.
Yeah.
And you don't know where she is. You find out she died alone. And it's not dismissive. It's just the strength. And we don't talk about it. And whenever we see Black women, the adjective put in front is strong.
Right.
Every single time.
Strong Black woman.
Every time. And so while we have to be strong for our husbands, for our children, at the job, work 20 times harder at the job to meet the lowest performing person, that is a very hard task to put on Black women anyway.
Yes.
It's hard. So you go in with that, and some of us take it, some of us can't. Some of us can't, and we convert to drugs or clubs or dancing, or we're going to get our attention. And the thing I'm seeing all the time is, why are Black women on there twerking? People say that if they put a video, you put what you want on social media knowing that you're going to get backlash or support. But why is she seeking that attention? That's her way of being strong.
I've never thought about it like that.
That's her way. That's her coping mechanism. That is what she's good at. Nobody wakes up in the morning, and I used to say this as a principal, even little kids, nobody wakes up and says, unless you're a mass murderer, a serial killer, I'm going to get up and test some stuff up today. Nobody. Yeah. Your daughter leaves school. Well, you remember how you met me.
Yes.
That little boy woke up that morning.
Right.
I didn't wake up that morning going, I'm going to chase a kid. I'm going to run past a parent chasing a kid screaming and yelling.
Yes.
I didn't wake up for that. But nobody wakes up to make the decisions. And it goes back to having a good day on purpose. So when somebody's doing something completely out of character, if everybody did something on purpose, the world would be a better place.
It's true.
And be more intentional,
It's true. Do you think it is fair that it seems like Black women solely have that trope of strong Black women? I don't know any other female in any other culture that has to carry that strong white woman, strong Asian woman trope like Black women.
I do think all women culturally have their own. The ladies in Bangladesh, the ladies of Muslim husbands that have to, I know every woman does not want to wear a hijab.
Yeah.
Not every woman wants to wear that, but they have to. Yes. We have to be strong. Hispanic ladies in their cultures, there are things that they expect of the women. That is their strong. Their strong is not our strong. In the white culture, if I have a very rich husband and I have to stand beside him, knowing that he does X, Y, Z, and that can be any color, that is their strength, is standing up. So each culture, I believe, has that strong, but we're taxed with it. it's not a compliment anymore.
It's not.
It's not.
At all. So going back to, I guess we can call it your decision day,
Yeah.
your decision to live when Melvin walked in, is that also the day that you decided, I'm going to be happy on purpose?
No.
Okay.
It wasn't. It was actually lessons after, because I didn't want to get back in that rut.
Okay.
So it was just, Belinda, how do you not end up back there? Well, one was keeping things in.
Okay.
One was, Belinda, the people you're around. You know, and I have a great circle of friends, but there were some people that just, you know, it was negative. So I had to work on me, protecting myself,
Okay.
you know, and self-love. And I have a very, well, I will say I used to have a very low self-esteem, and I would tell people what was wrong with me before they could say it to me, so that you couldn't hurt me.
Oh, okay.
And so I became the jokester.
Like your defense mechanism.
Yes. So I would just make the jokes about myself, so you didn't have anything to joke about, which is unhealthy, and it deals with trauma, all that stuff. But, and I'm not perfect. While I'm giving all this advice, I might get off of here and just cuss somebody out after. I need people to understand that I am human.
Yes.
And I'm transparent. Now, while I tell you this is the key to being happiness, and you run into me and I'm not happy, and you say, I thought you was already happy, you're not going to get this side.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get whatever is happening. So you better be having a good day on purpose.
Yes. Yes.
When you fix your mouth to say,
yes.
why aren't you, in a snarky, sarcastic kind of way. Yeah, but I just, happiness, I think, is absolutely free.
Yes.
But it's not always available.
Explain that.
So it doesn't cost anything to be happy, but it's not always presented. Situations, environments, does not always present itself for you to be happy. So you have to understand that too. Some places you go and it gives you a bad feeling, you don't go anymore. And I think we need to stop inserting ourselves. You know, stop inserting yourself in friendships, friend circles, invites that you weren't, secondhand invites. Stop doing that, because we get a little, when somebody says, oh, I forgot to tell you, then you get there and you're with people in your circle, like, did you get a late? Girl, I've been on for a whole 6 months.
And it make you feel.
Yeah, and then you don't invite me, and I'll be better off if you don't. Rather than get there and feeling like, yeah. So that's what I mean. Happy is not always, it's not always available, and it's not to be expected.
So for happiness, to be happy on purpose, are we like focusing on like happy thoughts? Are we looking at like the happy cat videos on social media? Are we watching you dance on TikTok? Like
all of that. And you look around my she shed,
Yeah.
you're not going to look anywhere where there's anything negative.
Yes.
You're not.
Yes.
I have little quotes, and that one over there, it says, I don't have the time or the crayons to explain to you what I'm saying. That is by my computer, because I need to know I am a human. I am highly intelligent. Don't question me to the point where it feels like I need to get out crayons and sketch you a drawing.
Yes.
And so my other ones are looking around, wherever I look around, to remind myself. And there's 2 calendars on my desk. There's one that's biblical, and there's one just with positive quotes that I have on my desk that I glance at all the time. You have to be intentional. It's like a second job. But once you first start, it feels like a job, and then it's just natural. It's just natural. I have over there the definition of inspire. I have a little thing that says make it happen. My life starts with me. My day starts with me, with the guidance of the Lord. But it starts with me, no other person. And I refuse, Crystal, to give anybody remote control to my life. You are not going to walk in HEB and you dislike me and make me go down the orange aisle because you're on the vegetable aisle. Not going to happen. I'm not going to allow anybody to, you're going to walk by me, both of us going to be miserable. But you're not going to have the power to say, girl, no.
Yeah.
Even if I got to go in the car and throw up, we're going to walk. You're not going to stop me.
Is joy and happiness the same thing, just different words?
So happiness is an action.
Okay.
Joy is a noun. Okay. So if you work at your happiness, you'll have joy. So and I think people think that happy or happiness is a noun.
But
Or they treat it as a noun.
But the way you describe it is more of a verb.
It's a verb.
Okay.
Yeah. They put the, to be happy to make it, but it's, happy is an action. Joy is a feeling. Joy, you feel joy. We feel happiness, but happiness is because joy is so in church, when you get the Holy Spirit, that is joy.
Okay.
That is your paycheck for being happy. Your paycheck for self-peace. Your paycheck for understanding. Your paycheck for understanding God's grace and mercy and His faith. But happiness, you have to work at it. That's why they say money doesn't buy you happiness. If it did, it would be so easy.
Yeah.
It would be so easy. But happiness is an action. It's a job. I have on that board over there, you see all those sticky tabs. Everything over there is positive.
Oh, wow.
So it's a job. Do I mess up on my job? Everybody does, because there's no blueprint to anything. You can make all the job descriptions you want.
Right.
But a job is complete, constantly developing. So it's my happiness. So I have to continuously work at it. When I wake up in the morning, at night, when I'm up in the middle of the night and sharing stuff, and you wake up and you're like, what did she go through?
Yeah.
It's because I'm reminding myself
to be happy.
To be happy. My Facebook posts are for me more so than others.
Really?
Yeah, go back and read it. I have one page called Growing with Dr. Belinda George. That is my faults. If you want to know what's wrong with me, go to that page.
Now, people do not put their faults on social media. They make social media like life is perfect and grand. But you put your faults on there.
Yeah, that's why you're responsible for 2 seconds of some lives up their line.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my goodness.
On social media, growing with growing with Belinda George, it's not it's growing alongside me. So if I have a thought and I wake up and underneath you'll see Bird, sometimes you'll see Belinda, you'll see 46-year-old Belinda, you'll see Dr. George. Those are when I learn those lessons. And that's a reminder when I go back, is like, Belinda, you were 46 when this clicked. Or you were a child, because if it says Bird, that means my fun side that I don't let everybody see. That's Bird, or the child. That's a lesson that I learned, but it's not an old lesson, so I share it. A lot of times with kids, and I tell parents all the time, I'm the Oprah Winfrey of marital advice, because she don't have a man and I don't have children. So I will tell you how to have a good kid.
Yes.
And so we tell kids, I don't know if you ever drink, but we're going to say you drink. You tell your daughter, don't drink. It's going to make you sick and it's bad. You don't say, girl, because mama got pissy drunk and passed out in the club and there's a video of me floating around and I'm so embarrassed, and you don't want to end up like your mama.
Yeah.
She would take that more than you giving advice that you have no experience of. So when I say things, and some people say, you're too much. But why would I give you, I'm not a salesman. So why would I tell you something? I'm not getting anything back. So if I tell you don't do something, it's because I've had the experience, or here because I talked to this person. Do you see my business all over social media, all over the world? Nope. And I tell it to everybody. I'm an open book because of the transparency.
Yes.
People don't discuss what's... Cat Williams is the hottest thing right now. You know what?
He is.
Because secrets. They said the year of Aquarius, everything, the veil is going to be pulled back. It's stuff that he didn't say, but it doesn't... You have to be transparent.
Yeah.
And there's a way, a time, and a place, but you have to, especially if you're going to teach the world.
Yes.
You have to.
Yeah. I remember when President Obama was running the first time for office, he said the exact same thing, that anything you want to know about me, I'm going to tell you, because it diffuses, whoever is trying to say something negative about me. I've already said it. So what do you have to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I started working at the church, first thing I said, I cuss. I have to say that.
Yeah.
I cuss. And they were like, "Oh, we're gonna pray." I was like, "You prayed, my mama prayed, I prayed, I cussed."
But this is what it is.
I remember years ago when I was a teacher, and this teacher, Connie Barlow, is the sweetest thing. She's like a really great friend. I curse in front of her, and I remember standing in the corner of her room, and if she sees this podcast, she'll be like, "That did happen." And she said, "You know what?" She put her hand on mine. She said, "You curse so much, and God doesn't like cursing." I said, "You're right. My sin is outward and yours isn't. So you work on your sin that you don't make me aware of, and I'll work on mine." And she said, "You know what? I never thought about that." And we laugh about that all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Most people would have been like, push away from you if you tell them something like that.
She said it's the absolute truth.
And it is.
Yeah, while you getting up in the middle of the night sneaking out to Uncle Bubba's house, telling your kids,
yeah,
I'm going to the store, and I'm cussing, and then you go in church and you have no sin, that's between you and God. But my sin is going to be, because we all sin. It's not a secret. So why not put your sin out?
Yes.
Because I have this thing, Crystal. If I'm a crackhead, right, and you find out I'm a crackhead, what would you do?
Probably stop talking to you. Probably gossip about it.
And then be honest. Would you like if I come to you and I'd be like, "Crystal, I'm on crack," what would you say?
I would probably help. I would try and think of how I can tangibly help you in that moment.
And thank you for being honest about what would you do if you didn't, because that's the truth. That's what we do. So if I tell you my faults, I'm going to work really hard not to do them because you're aware of them.
Yeah.
So if I tell you I curse, you're going to say, "Now, Belinda, we're not cursing today," and it keeps me accountable. So I just say it so that I can be held accountable.
Yes. Okay, so of course the cliche is, if you can see it, you can be it. Who did you see in your life? Was it family or friends that was really intentional about happiness when you were like, okay, they can do it, I can do it? Or was this all just self?
Being a weird kid. Being different and not caring about standing out, I think allowed me to be there. You know, people say, or I say all the time, dance like no one is watching. I literally do that.
Yeah.
Dancing in the rain, literally do that. I think a lot of times people have, my chickens, sorry. A lot of times people have this image and they lose themselves in the image. I lost my train of thought.
I was asking you, who did you see, or did you see someone?
So just being a weird kid is what I'm saying. And just nobody ever being able to reel me in or make me straight and narrow. So I'm just, you know, a fast car on a curvy road, you know, with my eyes closed. That's literally how I live my life, and just, this is what's supposed to happen. I'm not going to freak out over it. I'm not going to worry about it. Do I worry at times? Yes. Does stuff bother me at times? Yes. Does my own advice not work for me at times? Yes. That's why I'm so intentional about it. But no, there was no one person. And I've read tons of books. A person that I admire, but I already started it, is Tabitha Brown. Absolutely love her. You know, but I think that's just me. I think that's just how God made me.
Now, earlier in the podcast, you briefly spoke about a sickness that you had.
Yes.
And I love saying it in the past tense. Gastroparesis. Now, there is no cure for this, but we are friends in real life, but also on Facebook. And you document a lot of the stuff that you are dealing with that disease. So 2 questions here. Number 1, explain to us what that disease is. And number 2, how are you able to continue intentionally being happy in the face of that?
So gastroparesis is paralysis. I always explain it like this. I have a sister-in-law that's paralyzed from the waist down. Every morning she wakes up, she knows she's paralyzed. Everybody can see she's paralyzed. She's in a wheelchair. My paralysis doesn't present itself like that. So a sip of water could snap it into paralysis. It's just not always there. It may be there for extended periods of time, but it's there, but it's not presenting itself. So I had to learn what I called triggers in my body. So I can't eat like leafy vegetables. I've just recently been able to eat fruit. It's a lot of nausea, it's a lot of pain, a lot of bloating in your stomach. Sometimes I had to not eat just to live. My sister-in-law said it best. She lives to eat and I eat to live.
Okay.
And that's what I did. I just ate enough pureed food or liquid, my tube feedings. And so I had this wonderful team. I went to the diagnostic clinic and I met Dr. Coleman. So he did a lot of tests.
And where is he located?
At the in Houston.
In Houston, okay.
In Benz. And so he was like, he did all these tests, and I had 99.9% residual, which means when I ate the radioactive egg or the radioactive oatmeal, only 0.1% went down. What? The rest just sat.
In your stomach?
In my stomach. Because my stomach would not work. And so I was here with a local doctor, and he told me that's just going to be my quality of life. And I called Melvin, my Ike Turner, because he came in the hospital the night I called him. He came back up there, and because we do believe in rest, and so he would come home at night. Some nights he would stay, and he put me in the wheelchair, and the nurse said, I need to take her IV out. She can't take her. I have to fill out paperwork. And he said, well, you better hurry. And she didn't make it, and I went. He put me in Houston. I hollered all the way to Houston with an IV, and he said, help my wife. And so I was in there 3 weeks, and Ronald Coleman knew I was there, so he connected me with Dr. Tariq, which is a surgeon. And so he was like, he came in that night, and he was going to put a feeding tube in my nose, but I had sinus surgery, so they couldn't. So he said, we're going to have to bring you to surgery, do a, feeding tube. They had to do some coercion on Melvin's part because he didn't want, he didn't want me to have that. Not that he was like, it must be something else.
Okay.
So when he realized that when I first got to the hospital, I had a barium study. So he did this extensive gastric emptying study. And so they gave me the oatmeal. I had to eat eggs. I think it was eggs.
Scrambled?
Yeah, scrambled eggs with radioactive material in it. So I ate that. And so Melvin said they came back in the room, and I was heavily sedated, so I kind of remember, because I was in such pain. I remember Melvin telling me that they went to get him, and he was sitting in the room, and all he thought, the nurse said, I need you to come with me. He said she died. That's what he was thinking. But they brought him down into the room, and they showed him that the barium was here from 3 days prior, and the egg was there after 4 hours. Nothing had moved, so they were like, we have to stop putting food in her, and she has to get the feeding tube. So that's how I got the feeding tube.
Okay.
So the first feeding tube I got was a G tube, and it was down here. And so I got the G tube, and then I did well. So they Dr. Tariq pulled the G tube out. Then I got really sick again. Really, this was during a depression time. Got really sick. And so I had to go back to Houston to Methodist. And so they said, you got to get the tube back. And they put a stimulator. I still have that, like it's kind of like a stimulator for the heart, but it's in my stomach. Okay. So it sends jolts to keep it moving and help the nausea. Okay. So once I got that, I would get my tube changed every 3 months. So I had a J tube, then a GJ tube, then back to a G tube, and then the doctors, and I got Botox injections, EGD, down into my stomach that would help, but it caused blurred vision, but I could eat for at least a week. And so Dr. Quigley was like, I think it's working, Belinda. We're going to do this procedure called a G-point. And so we're looking it up and trying to figure it out. Dr. Tariq, they tell me another doctor's going to do it. Dr. Docha, he comes in, and insurance like, nope, it's experimental, can't do it. So Dr. Tariq was like, I'll do it. And he has, like, literally, he's the one I made the post about where he came in the room and said that it was him. Yeah. And so he did the G-point surgery. They had him in the hospital for 3 days. They said that it's extremely painful. You'll be on pain meds for the first 3 days. We'll give you stuff to numb your throat. I woke up and I said they do the surgery.
You didn't feel pain?
I had minimal pain. Yeah. But not, and once the pain passed and they sent me home on pain medicine and I was on liquids, then pureed food, then soft foods, and so I went back and it was like, it's too soon to take the tube out, we don't know if it's going to work. So I kept on and I kept gaining weight, and so I went in, I think it was in December, they pulled the tube out. Okay. And so I don't have a feeding tube, and I eat and my stomach works. And if I have nausea, I know what to do, but yes. And my doctor said, you're not cured because it can come back, but you won't be asymptomatic. But I like to use the word
cured. Absolutely. Now, during this entire process, which is a lot, and I know you gave me the very condensed version, were you still like happy and intentional about being happy?
You better believe it. For my dissertation, I wrote most of it from my hospital bed.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
What?
I did.
What was it about, your dissertation?
Virtual education.
Okay.
Way before virtual was a thing.
What?
Yes. My nephew had taken the STAR test, and it's in the dedication in the front of my book. And he said he came home. We had work strategies, and Ruben comes home, 3rd grade. He went to Martin at that time. And he comes back and he says, I said, how'd you do on your test? You know, and he was like, oh, T-Bird, I read this paragraph about this 2 brothers and the M&Ms, and he went on and I was like, oh, good. And I said, what about the rest? He said, it's about an old white guy. They had a picture, but I just guessed. And he failed.
What?
I was like, when I got his results back, I was like, and he was like, I didn't know him. And so my dissertation was exposing kids to things that they don't have readily available. So like all Smithsonian museums, kids don't have to fly to Washington to see them.
Yeah.
It's virtual. There's zoos. So take your kids, use virtual education. That's what I did over the Jason Project and virtual education before it was even a thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at you, into the future.
I don't know about that. But there wasn't a lot of research.
That.
Well, it is. You do get your book copyrighted.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in the hospital bed, you're writing your dissertation, you're helping your nephew, but you're extremely sick. How are you able to stay happy during that time? And the reason I'm asking is because people feel like, and probably me too, feel like you have to be like healthy and well and, you know, have everything in your life going well for you to be happy. But for you, that was not the case. You were sick, you were in pain, you know, writing your, like all of these things I feel like coming up against you, but yet you were still happy. And I'm trying to figure out how.
Because happiness is a job. And I think a lot of people see it as a thing. So when you consider it as a thing, you just have to be in that element. There's no way to get you. A dog is a dog. Happy is happy. So people equate happy with, I have to be, something has to be going on to make me happy. No.
Yes.
You gotta make yourself happy. You know, you have to work at it. And of course, protecting your circle and being around people that are happy. But during my illness, when your daughter was at the school, when you were there, I probably didn't have the feeding tube, but I had gastroparesis.
Did you?
I did. Since 2000, 2005, 2008.
You never presented sick, ever.
And that's because I don't get to put my stuff on you. And I don't need you to feel pity for me because I gloat in pity. And I did make a post about that. If I have, and that's just human nature. People can say, I don't want people pitying over me, but if you trip and people are like, oh, let me help you up, let me get you a Band-Aid, you're going to be like, no, no, no. You're going to be like, oh, please. Give me an ice cream out of a golden bowl. We do. And so I know that I'll self-gloat and pity. So I don't tell people because it'll be poor me, and poor me puts me back into depression.
Okay.
So I cannot. So I have to keep going strong. Now if I get to a place where I'm like, I'm really sick, I can't. And then people are like, oh my God, I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, but in the meantime, let me throw up in the trash can, tie it up, put it in the trash can, and let's go do whatever we got to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're very self-aware.
Oh yeah.
And do you have to be self-aware in order to be intentional about your happiness?
Yeah, you have to be self-aware about everything. Your health, your marriage, everything. Self-awareness is key. Nobody knows you like you. And remember I said you teach people how to treat you.
Right.
So if I teach people how to treat me, I better know myself inside and out. And so if I don't know myself, I can't teach you how to treat me. I have to be real with myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you are, and I know you hate when I say this, I consider you famous.
My eyes go down.
I know. So if you're watching this podcast and she looks familiar, it's because she was everywhere. That was what, it was a 2000?
I think 2019.
2019. Okay, you were everywhere, and I do mean everywhere. You were on the Steve Harvey Show, Good Morning America. You were like, I feel like across the country speaking about your Tucked In Tuesdays. So tell us, of course I know what it is, but tell us what Tucked In Tuesdays is.
So I do perk up when you say Tucked In Tuesdays because it's a God thing.
Yes.
It really is. Mm-hmm. So I borrowed the idea from this educator. There's a group called Principles Leadership, and Stephanie McConnell is over it.
Okay.
And so this, if I talk about educators that are like perfect, it is Stephanie McConnell. Mm-hmm. So smart. And so she had this page where principals,
on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay.
Would collaborate, and you would, like, you can take ideas, and they would ask questions, and they would share forums, and it was, I met some of my best friends through that through her Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And a principal had put that she read to her kids, and her kids loved it. So I was like, that's easy, doesn't cost money. And but hers were at the school, and I was like, I barely can get these kids to come to school, much less having parents come after school to read a book.
And you are principal of an elementary school at this time. Okay.
And so I got on social media, Facebook. I went Facebook Live, and I read Red by Michael Hall. Mm-hmm. And then the kids came back, and they were like, I saw you in front of your Christmas tree, or I saw you doing this, and I saw you doing that. And then, will you do it again? And I was like, yep, because you can't take kids' notes. And I was like, yeah, we'll do it. And so just doing it, Tuesday I would come home, and it wasn't like I had a lot of people, maybe 30. It wasn't a lot. Mm-hmm. And so it started getting like shared on social media. I remember the newspaper came to do a story, and I was reading, I think, Interrupted Chicken, I think, and was doing the book, and she was taking pictures, and I'm reading. And then I had an interview, and she came into the interview, she did the interview, and I can't think, Chris Williams. Mm-hmm. He's not here anymore, but he used to live in Beaumont. Okay. Just a wonderful person. And so, as a friend, I mean, I know him as a friend. So, great friend. People loved him, looked up to him, did a lot in the community. So, I'm telling him about this stuff, and he was like, God, you know, Belinda, you know, you're on the sun. I was like, oh, well, you know. And he says, man, God gonna move, you just wait. So I say, well, I have a news story, you know, blah, 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 blah. So I call him, because the lady, after we do the story, she says, oh my goodness. So she closes the door, and she sticks her head back, and she said, oh yeah, your life will never be the same. And
that's what the reporter said?
She said, because I'll upload this to sister stations, and it'll blow up. So I call Chris right away and tell him. So the next morning I call him, and he says, so, and I said, I'm still black, I'm going to work. I don't know what she meant. Yeah. So I got to work, and the Homer Drive Facebook page, I would check it every morning, because some of my parents would send me messages in there. And there was this lady from Indiana that had tagged, and I was like, oh my God. So I get to school, and I tell my secretary, Miss Turner comes in, and she goes, Steve Harvey's on the phone, and I'm in there telling about this one lady who shared it, and I said, quit joking, and she said NBC. And I said, no, it's not. And so she says, I'm a transfer. And I was like, she's joking. I looked at the phone, I said, it really is, but it wasn't Steve Harvey, it was just his producers. Yes. And at that time, it was simply to have, remember at his show, he would show a clip from the internet, and he would just highlight a person. Yes. That's all it was for, nothing else. And so from that day forward, it was just like a tornado, a whirlwind. And, you know, getting guidance from Nikisha Burns at that time. She was at the district. And I remember the moment somebody tagged me and said, you cannot read books without publisher's permission. You could, I was like.
Was it just a random person on social media?
Oh. Okay. And I was like, oh my God. And so this man named TJ Shea, he's just recently passed, bless his heart, never met him. He tags me on Twitter, and he's tagging all the authors, so I inbox him, and I'm like, no, don't, because I don't have their permission. Yeah. He got everybody's permission.
Did you know him?
What? He went and got, like, he knew all these authors, and he was like, send her your books. And so I started getting books, and then, of course, when we went on Strahan and Sarah, we got the books, you know, more books, but it was him that was like, no, y'all gonna leave. It was some kind of library association that was on me about it. Yeah. But HarperCollins, that case right there is full of books. Over, I bet, 2,000 books. So I'll be reading for at least, without any fine, for 2,000 more Tuesdays.
Okay, so what is the name of your Facebook page?
So it's Tucked In Tuesdays where I read from, but it also goes to my personal page. It goes to the Growing with Belinda George page. It goes to YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then TikTok. It's a hit and miss with TikTok until I figure some things out, but I've read from TikTok as well.
Okay. And what did that do for the students at your school?
So they love to read, and so corporate coach, he's now the behavior specialist there and interventionist. He would take the AR books and play them in the gym so that kids can do AR tests, because I'll do AR books and I'll provide that information as well. So the kids were reading. Now, was everybody happy about it? No. No, it wasn't a good feeling everywhere. But when you're doing God's work, you have to ignore the feelings that come along with it, because he's not going to stop giving you an assignment.
Absolutely.
So every time I'm like, I'm going to back off, some random person would call and say, I want you on the show, or I need you to come speak here. And so many of my posts, you'll see God is at it again. That's every time I want to back away from Tucked In Tuesdays. He's like, nope, go get back up there.
Do what I told you to do.
Yes. And so that is more spiritual for me. And the people that I meet, like Gail Jones, she's a local author, learned of her through crystwil. Cutest little book. Dallas tells about this dog that goes to camp, and so I read the first 3 chapters. But I used to read the books in advance, because before I started looking out for me, I wanted to be perfect and kids to read. And so I would get these books, and if I came across a word I didn't know because of my accent, I may say things really weird, and you can correct me. I'm perfectly fine with that. So I would get it, and then I would Google, the pronunciation. Well, when I would get in front of the book, I was so locked up on that one page. Here comes the page, here comes the page. Oh my God.
Oh, okay.
So I stopped reading them.
Oh.
And so I don't read the books in advance. And so when I open the book, I have no idea what it's about.
Yeah.
And so I wanted kids to know this, that there's still excitement in reading. If I come across something, I'm like, or I'm crying, or I'm like, oh, that's crazy. I get to say it because I'm in the moment. I don't read it in advance because kids we don't give them the test ahead of time. So when they make a mistake, they need to know it's okay. But don't put that book down. Let somebody from the audience correct you, or the author who's sitting in the seat, let them correct you. But whatever you do, don't put the book down. You keep going. And so that's what I do for the kids. I just read it blind, and if I have to apologize for a bad part, that's life.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah.
But we can't present everything as perfect to the world.
Oprah Winfrey said when she realized that, just being human and not presenting as perfect, that's when she started to rise, because of course she was doing news before she became Oprah Winfrey. And reporters and anchors, they read everything first so they can present perfect on air. But she said she didn't do that, and she would mess up on words, and like if something sad happened, you could see her authentic reaction. And she said she presented human, and people gravitated to her so much. And it's the same thing with you. You're presenting human when you're reading your books first on air, or on Facebook. So that's amazing. You know what, I thought that started when Facebook shared your post, but that's not when it started.
No, Facebook actually called me somebody inboxed me, and she was like, I'm so sorry, I don't have a number. And she inboxed me. We did an interview over the phone, and I remember being in my office, and they said, we want to talk with you. And so I remember them calling.
It was Facebook?
It was some people from Facebook, and she calls and she says, so we needed to talk to you. We had a hard time finding you, but whoever their team was with analysis, she said there was a lot of traffic to this one school, that we were getting all this traction. And she said, we just wondered. And I was like, am I in trouble? And she was like, no, we just need to know what you did. How you did it that made and when I said all I did was, and she said, oh, and I was like, yeah, I just read.
Yeah.
And that's why I know it's God, because if I tried to, I have the blueprint. If I did it again, it wouldn't work.
You don't think so? Really?
It wasn't me. It was simply a vessel. I know for a fact, if I tried to do it again, or I tried to put my own spin on it, I would fail miserably.
Wow.
It's not. It's that. This is not for me. Whatever it's for, whatever this step is for, it is not for me, and I just have to trust the process.
Has God revealed to you what it's for or who it's for?
Nope.
And
I just know to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And don't change it. And he kind of steers. Right when I think like, okay, nobody's listening, he'll send an author. I'll find an email. I'll get a text message easily. And so from Tucked In Tuesdays, I became a motivational speaker.
Yes.
Now, I didn't go to school for it. Actually, I remember someone told me to speak, and she said, "What's your price?" Her name is Dr. Catherine Washington, and it was for Region 5. And I said, "A onesie, I guess." And she was like, "A onesie? My pajama set." I was like, "I don't know. I don't have a price." God did not. Like when people ask me, "How much do you charge to speak?" I was like, "I don't know." So I mean, I have an agent that books me. And I'm always amazed that people will pay money to hear me talk about my life, because I do it all the time. But that's why I know it's God, because he sent me an agent. I had never met Nathan until when I went to Indiana to speak. But we've been talking for over 2 years. But that was the first time I met him face to face. Yeah.
Was he your agent by that time or no? And you had never met him face to face?
He had been an agent for a year. We talked on the phone. He would book stuff. I would go to stuff. Maybe he wasn't there. But that was the first time we met. And that was the first time he ever heard me speak.
So he came across your Tucked In Tuesdays and was like, "I want to help you."
Yeah, basically. I mean, I would love to ask Nathan. I was on his podcast. And then he said there was something special about me. And so he got his own, there's a bunch of us under his motivational speaking, but yeah, it was a keynote for the Indiana Youth Institute.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, so you were, like I said, famous. And you were at the pinnacle. I feel like you were on the mountain top. And of course, this is just what I'm seeing on Facebook. And then it felt like just a random Tuesday that the world all of a sudden came up against you.
And I don't ever feel like it was, because it's God. I know it's God. And so I will say this. The one thing I will say, because you and I talked about this.
Yes.
The one thing I will say about this is, so God all the time presents himself to us when he wants us to move. It's always subtle. He never jumps out in your face. By the time he does it, it's never going to end the way you wanted it to. So he would give me little subtle things. And I remember the last subtle thing he gave me, we were flying in from Idaho. I had spoken to the Department of Education in Boise, Idaho. I was flying back in a plane. It was October 19th. And I wrote my resignation letter. And the way I love kids, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I wrote it. I wrote it to 3 individuals. And, well, 4 individuals. And, no, it was 3 individuals. And I just left it in my notes in my phone. Just left them there. And I was like, all right, whatever it is. And so I got sick, and so I was out for a while. And so I just knew at that time when I came back, I'll never forget Felicia Cooper, and she was my AP at home at the time. When I came back, she said, "Those crows weren't here until you came back, these big crows." And so I started like thinking, Lord have mercy, an omen. So I Googled, and crows are a sign of transformation and change.
Really?
So I looked it up and I told her. I was like, and then I told Brandon Rito, and she can tell you, and I can say these names because I've talked to these people. I said, I'm not going to be here next year. And she says, well, why Dr. G? Because that's what she calls me. I said, I just feel it. And she can tell you, Shauna Flowers can tell you, if I tell you something, I see it coming a mile away. Now, you can choose to sneak around because you're a part of it and do it, but that's why my reaction will be poor towards you, because I saw it coming a mile away. And the transparency wasn't there. And so I have to find that fine balance between a spirit of discernment and what you do when you see it. So I have to, like, Do I get mad when you lie about how it happened when I saw it?
Yeah.
So I'm working on that. But I just, and it wasn't even like a sadness. It wasn't like, I would cry all the time and I couldn't understand why. And then God kept allowing, and I will say allowing people to do little things. He allows it.
Yeah.
And so whether it's good or bad, he is the overseer.
Yes.
And he allowed it. And so I had opportunities to go elsewhere and I didn't, because I was following my passion. I love kids. I love teaching.
Yes, you do.
I love reading. So I was chasing my passion. This is another quote I'm going to tell you. My passion. I got to, when they told me I was going to another school, I said, and I quote, "No, my mistake was made public." With not little to no background. It was made public. So the kids saw it. Their parents saw it. I don't get to teach kids that when you mess up, you go right back to the same. I say, so I'm going to resign. Because the children are watching. And I don't want them to think if you mess up, you go to another school and then you shine there. Those kids don't understand why I was leaving. So in their minds, they want to go where the principal is. So I left.
Wow.
With no plan. Nothing. And had decided we're going to take a year off and we're just going to find out where I need to be. And I left. And then God, people die not knowing their purpose.
Yes.
And I learned my purpose in between that and still learning it, but I'm pretty sure I know what it is. And I got into my purpose. If you chase your passion, Crystal, what God does is he puts you where your purpose is, but he takes a parachute. And he just lets you free fall. You'll land where your purpose is, but you're going to have scratches because passion is self. It's what I want to do. It's what makes me, but is it really glorifying to God? Even though what I did, and I'll use the word appears because everything has an appearance. Appears to be God's work, what it was, but that's not his purpose for me. He had someone else that their purpose is to do what I intended to do, and that is fine. So when you find your purpose is not actually tied to one event. It's just that when God keeps putting things in you, you start to see a cycle. My whole position in life is to help others and get nothing in return, and understanding that. That is my whole purpose. It is a lonely walk. I've learned my purpose. I don't know why he gives me a purpose like that. Is it fulfilling? Yes. But there's nothing tangible. So when people say, Belinda, you were famous, that's why I always say no. And I will tell you another thing. I make notes in my phone all the time. And I was flying once again, and I was thinking about myself. And we were flying high over, and you could just see the pastures cut out the lakes.
Yeah.
And as we got lower, you start seeing rooftops, well, bigger buildings first, then rooftops, then you start seeing cars, you start seeing shadows of the plane. And I worry about little me and what little Crystal said about me. Those people don't have, they have a bird's eye view of you and I. They don't have the view of, as I got closer, I started seeing more and more detail. Because I thought I'm seeing the world from the top, but I wasn't. Even in a plane, I'm only seeing this much of the world.
Yeah.
And that's why when you say famous, I'm thinking, I am not even a household name in some people in Beaumont. I met somebody yesterday that said, what did you do? I don't think famous is the word I ever use for myself. Because I know it's God. And if I start saying I'm famous, he's going to take his plan from me. So I cannot sit here and no. And I'll pass you through my house when we leave. There is no significance, even in here, that Tucked In Tuesday ever happened. I'll show you where it is when we leave.
Yeah.
It's on a shelf in the back room because it's for God.
I interviewed Pastor, and I'm trying not to get emotional doing this specific part about passion and purpose and how God works because he's so intentional in our lives. And sometimes it's like, little me, like, you're so intentional about your love and your grace and your mercy and your plan for me. But I interviewed Pastor Randy Felshaw, and one of the things that he told me, and it has always stuck with me, he said, Crystal, when your purpose and your passion meets, it's like a leaping. Like, you know, when your passion and your purpose meet, there is a leap of joy and happiness, you know, knowing that this thing that God is planning for you is coming together. And that's what I was thinking when you were talking about your passion and your purpose actually coming together. But okay, so we have the people that are only seeing just a minute part of who Dr. Belinda George is and Tucked In Tuesday is, but that negativity can be very heavy. You know, and it says something that when people see like a negative comment, I'm talking about social media, they see a negative comment, it like ruins their day. But they see a good comment, they're just like, oh, you know, they just dismiss it. But like when all the negativity was coming towards you, even though they were only seeing a little bit of who you were, how did you manage to stay happy and have joy during that time?
So there's a post, Washington Post, about me, and I think it was like 5 million people viewed it. And I used to read all the comments and put, you know, hearts and trying to, and I'll never forget, this lady said that I was rewiring children's brains. And I didn't know who she was, but my little heart, I was like, oh, I'm a really nice person, and I'm a veteran, you know. And I remember she would go from like one post to the other. You know, she didn't have a face, but one post to, and I didn't know her. And there was this lady that she made the comment, and this lady who I never met said, and that was Susan with the weather. And no, so, and it was just so dismissive. And I inboxed and I was like, thanks so much. Like, thanks so much. Because, okay, when we do, and I had to learn this because I am a people pleaser. Or I used to be. Not anymore. It's just, what time is it? Okay. How do I say it? I'm a people pleaser. Used to be, but shouldn't be. We focus on one negative comment when there's 700 good ones. And I had to learn that with people as well. So when I saw the negative comments, and I used to always say this, the people don't like the position. No matter who would have been in that position, no matter who the principal was, people would still say the same things. It was the position they were saying. Because if I started to believe that these people knew me, I would run myself crazy.
Right.
So my whole point of not getting upset, because people would say, oh, you need to do such and such. God, and I told anybody that called me during that time, I told them all the same thing. God did not want me to fight that battle. All the people that say that were going at the board meeting, because if they had did it, those negative people would be able to say, she got all those people upset to come. So I had to fight it alone. Because I had to show that it was God that was going to move me from one spot to the other.
Yes.
And that's why I didn't allow the negativity to become me, or me to outwardly be negative about it.
Yes. Again, being very intentional about it. Which leads me directly to my next question. What is, because you spread happiness when people talk to you face to face, on the phone, especially on social media, you're always spreading happiness. What is your intention with that?
I don't want anybody to have my 2 seconds. So it's just a safe place. I don't know how many inboxes I get about people whenever I talk about suicide. That was me. I remember the night of my party, a really good friend of mine saying her suicide letter was written that night. And she is thriving and alive now.
Yes.
So if you're going to interview anybody, Chantel Douglas.
Okay, that was going to be my last question, but here we are. Okay.
Chantel Douglas, yes.
Okay.
Because she's an overcomer. And her story is different from mine, but she's very intentional.
Okay.
Very intentional on everything.
So your intention, I love how you phrase that. You don't want people to have your 2 seconds. Can you expound on that a little bit?
That moment when I wanted to end it, I was very intentional about not having anybody there so that I could do it.
Yeah.
I don't want people to ever feel comfortable or put into a place where that is happening. Okay. Yeah.
As we wrap up this interview, and you have been, oh my God, amazing. Like, I could just keep talking to you. I really could, but I know we need to stop because you have a life. And you have
got a meeting.
You got stuff you got to do. What would be your closing advice for people who want to be intentional about happiness but don't know where to start?
That is not easy.
Okay.
It's not easy. It's not comfortable. You are the most uncomfortable person all the time. But that goes back to knowing that God's grace and mercy will sustain you.
Yeah.
Being happy, getting there is not feeling good. That's why it's work. But once you get there, you're more intentional.
Okay.
And your happiness doesn't rely on other people. Which, when suicide happens, you've relied on other people and now you have nothing. So just learning self-love, self-care, be yourself. If you're a cusser, damn it, cuss. But own that you may offend Crystal, and yet you say, Crystal, if I offended you by saying that, I'm sorry. Be who you are, but be aware of the people around you. Don't be a butthole you. You know, don't hurt others to make yourself feel better. Have a great day on purpose. And don't, and it says over there, life is a journey with not a destination. There is no end to any event that you're having. If you treat life as, oh, tomorrow this is all over, instead of doing that, because you think about it, and I'll end with this, when you have a big project and you've worked hard and you're like, I cannot wait, and then people call you like, that's great, that interview was great, you did great, and you're riding on that high, and then it goes because it ended. Leave that book open. Leave that feeling open.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sitting down on my podcast and talking to me and educating me. I have taken away, because for me, happiness is a thing. Yeah. Like, I have to have all these outside influences for me to be happy, but you have really explained that it's not. It's actually work and being intentional and not letting people dictate your happiness.
Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much for sitting down and educating us about happiness.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get this podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.
Crystal Petrie Consulting, so inspiring, pushing you to your dreams. You can be anything, so it goes with purpose. It's time to make it happen.